Continuing with our team coverage, this issue is a big one, and sometimes it's really hard to see why it is so important to soybean farmers.
This week, TWILA's Neil Melancon breaks down the cost of raising soybeans and why the economics we're seeing this year just simply don't add up.
When Joey Olivier was getting these fields ready for soybean planting back in April, he had already put in quite a lot of money just to get ready. That was before the trade war with China saw retaliatory tariffs on beans, and Olivier was concerned how it would affect his farm then.
We're working on a very thin margin of profit on soybeans as it is. $10 is about what it takes just to make us consider or be close to being in a profit margin. And today I think soybeans are selling for 10, 30 something, so there's not a whole lot of profit margin to be made.
Since that time, the price has dropped $2 due to the continuing tariffs, and many are concerned how they can keep the farm going at all. Kyle McCann, Associate Commodity Director with the Louisiana Farm Bureau, says there's a laundry list of expenses growers run up all year long they have to pay just to get those crops made.
You have fertilizer costs, all the other direct inputs regarding seed, which has become a huge expense nowadays. In addition to, once a crop starts growing, various crop protectants, whether that's various herbicides to keep other things from growing, insecticides, fungicides, all of that to protect and nurture the crop all the way up to harvest.
Breaking down all these costs, you have those initial expenses of fuel, fertilizer, and seed for planting. That's about $179 per acre. As the crop matures, maintaining it with insecticide, fungicide, and herbicide, as well as irrigation during this past year's hot summer, is $137 an acre. Finally, harvest sees the expenses of cutting the crop and hauling it to market. That runs at about $143 an acre. What this means is that soybean growers have to make a crop of 55 bushels per acre with a price between $8.50 and $9. Keep in mind, Louisiana set the record a few years ago with an average yield of 57 bushels per acre. Farmers need that just to break even. And even though you see that current price within that range, that's the price in Chicago. It doesn't count the steep discounts farmers are facing for barges that aren't moving on the river. That's if they can even sell it to those elevators who aren't taking very much damaged grain right now.
Soybean harvest is about 40% done nationally, and this week should see some of that pick up across the country as we're just in the thick of harvest in the Midwest. Most of those harvested acres nationally have storage. Overall, though, it won't do anything to help prices. And guys, this is just a slow-moving disaster, as we've said. There's three things that really get to me here. Number one is, while the Secretary recognized this, it can't be emphasized enough. The weather disaster and the tariff disaster are linked together. One caused the other one. And even though the weather is going to do what the weather is going to do, if those soybeans were moving through port, we wouldn't be in this situation. We wouldn't have this sort of stuff.
Because we wouldn't have to worry about the damage.
Exactly.
That damage issues wouldn't be as exacerbated, if you will.
Exactly. Two, every bit of those soybeans, whether they would have been brought to the market or not, would have been cut. Had they been brought in other words, had they gone to these elevators, they would have been in that MFP program. So the fact that they're rotting in the field shouldn't be an issue. I mean, it shouldn't count towards them. And three, as Congressman Abraham implied, springtime is coming, and that's when all of this is going to really, these chickens are going to come home to roost. These banks are not going to want to loan to our Louisiana farmers who don't have storage, who don't have the economics in place. And I mean, this is, as Congressman Abraham and I talked after that meeting, a national security issue. We have to have farmers bringing in our crop. And I don't think that the administration is quite aware of just how much pain is out there. As we've talked, it's a mixed bag across the state. Some farmers have done better than others. But at the end of the day, the farmers have to stay in business, and that's really the key here.
Well, I know that you spend a lot of time speaking with the Louisiana Farm Bureau Grain Marketing Specialist Greg Fox. What kind of insights are you getting just from your conversations with him?
Well, it's, for one thing, there's that big tsunami of soybeans that are coming from the Pacific Northwest. They're being put on trains and they're headed this way. Then you've got the huge amount that's coming in from the Midwest, which is getting on those barges, which is going nowhere right now. It's going to those elevators and staying. I think the big problem is Louisiana farmers don't have as much on-farm storage as the rest of the country because we're the first to get all that grain out. And since it didn't go anywhere, now it's competing with all that Midwest grain, and so the elevators just don't want it.
Neil, it kind of goes back to when you were wearing the bottom line hat, and we're sorry that you have to put it on again for this case, but good job putting it together and showing us those numbers.
Thank you.